Gears 5, GreedFall, Borderlands 3, and maybe some more. Today on YemmyCast. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Yemmy the Ferret here, and this is the weekend episode of YemmyCast, a video game podcast on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for coming around to this episode of the podcast on September 14th, 2019. That is right. We are just one day after the official release of Borderlands 3, a little bit more than a week for the release of Gears 5, and a little bit less than a week for the release of GreedFall. And let me tell you guys, I've been playing a lot of games. My new schedule for YouTube and streaming and all that crap has really opened it up so that I can actually play games, and I'm really happy. Okay, like, I'm so happy that I've gotten to play all three of the games that I want to talk about today in a good amount, I should say. I played them a good amount. And I've enjoyed all three of them. Spoiler alert, I've enjoyed all three. But I'll get to talking about those in the near future. Once again, thank you so much for coming around to this podcast. I know there's a lot of podcasts on all platforms that I talk about. I'm excited and happy that you chose this one to spend your time listening to, so I thank you so much. If you're driving home from school, if you're driving for work, if you're just sitting at home bored, I appreciate you. If you're here for the premiere of the podcast at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, thank you so much. I may not be there for this one. We'll have to see how my schedule works out this weekend, but I'm here doing it right now, so yeah. Let's get right into business. I've been playing a lot of games this week, and instead of doing news this weekend, I don't think there was really anything big enough for me to even do a whole episode on. I thought I might as well talk about the biggest games that have recently come out, games that everyone's talking about right now, and I'll give my first impressions on these games. And we'll go through them in order of when I played them. Which ones did I play first? I'll talk about first, and we'll get to probably Borderlands 3 is going to be the last one we talk about because it's the one I've been playing most recently, which means that it's not the first one I did. Okay, everyone understands? We're all good. What about you, sir?
Oh, you stink!
Understandable. Thank you so much. All right, so the first game that... Oh my gosh, my wind chimes are going crazy. I bought these wind chimes at this market, and they're like wooden, and they're bamboo, and I mean, I want the door open because it's a cool breeze, but the wind chimes can get really... I mean, they're not even chimes. They're the wind bamboo can really start to get noisy. So if you hear that in the background, just know that it's just because I'm getting a nice fresh breath of air, and maybe that'll make me pronounce words correctly. Anyways, the first game I want to start off with today is Gears 5. Gears of War 5, also known as Gears 5, it's been marketed as Gears 5 this entire time. It has not been called Gears of War 5 by any advertisements or anything like that. Just fans of the series have called it Gears of War 5. So the technical name is Gears of War 5, but it is Gears 5 to pretty much everywhere that you might look. Gears 5, the concerns I had going into it as a series, I've played all of the Gears of War games with my friend Nick, aka Greedy Waffle, and we've had a lot of fun with the series. Horde mode has always been a favorite of ours. The PvP has been okay for the past, and the story mode, of course, has always been co-op. So we've always gotten to play co-op, campaign with each other, go through the game on the hardest difficulties, like Gears of War 2 and 3. We went through the hardest difficulties, and we came out victorious. And we've just been huge fans of the series, from getting eaten by a giant worm to playing, to taking down the queen of the grubs. But the games kind of went down in quality with Judgment, Gears of War Judgment. That game wasn't as strong as I was hoping it was going to be. It seemed like kind of like, let's just throw this game out so that there's something Gears of War before the console change. It was just it wasn't as fun. I think was it that one that the PvP turned in, or the horde mode? There was like a horde mode where you could play as the enemies. Maybe that was Gears of War 3, and I'm remembering wrong. I still liked those, those options, and I liked the enemies in the game, of course, because it's the locust. What's not to love about shooting a locust in the head and his head just exploding with a long shot, something like that. But Judgment, the story in it was like really iffy, and like everything that happened during the game was just like, who really cares, And then Gears of War 4 came around, which was the reason that me and my friend got an Xbox One. We bought the Titanfall, or I bought the Titanfall bundle, and that Xbox console did not have a working disc drive, so I had to sell that one. And then I bought an Xbox One S when the bundle with, what was it bundled with? I don't remember. I don't remember what it was bundled with, but we did buy the Xbox One S bundle, and I ended up getting Gears 5, Sunset Overdrive, the Rare Replay, and I don't remember what else I got on that. But I remember really being excited for Gears 4. We bought Xbox One S on Black Friday. It was half off, and we bought the game with it. And what ended up happening... Oh, we bought the original Gears of War remake one, too. But what ended up happening was we played through the campaign, and it was just like a really lackluster experience. Nothing really handled the same way that it used to. Everything just didn't feel like it had a punch to it. You were fighting robots for most of the game, which was really annoying. And then you ended up fighting like these alien blob creatures, I guess you would call them. And I just didn't find it really enjoyable. The Locust came back in the end, but it's like, it didn't really feel like a Gears of War game to me. The levels weren't laid out that well. Probably the best level in the game, or best part of the game, was you running through the whirlwind electrical storm or whatever that happened. It did help advance the plot, of course, but there were a lot of characters missing in Gears of War 4. The Carmine was completely non-existent. There was a Carmine in it, but he got killed off screen. He was in a tower. We don't even know who he was, so it's not even like a Carmine death. Clayton wasn't in there. There's a bunch of characters from Gears of War 3 that they just forgot about. What was that one guy? There was like two characters that you played as for like one of the first missions of Gears of War 3 who just didn't show up for the rest of the game or the rest of the series. That happened a few times, and I feel like they need to kind of keep some consistency. Like, hey, these characters, they're here, or have them get killed off or something. That's the one thing I didn't like about Gears 4 and Gears 3 was there weren't enough major deaths. Like, sure, things happened in Gears 3 that I liked, and there were a good amount of character deaths that were big and they had impact. But when you got to Gears 4, just nothing seemed to happen. All the characters who were happy and free, and they all lived happily ever after. Gears 5 has taken everything I thought of the Gears of War series leading up from like Judgment and Gears of War 4 leading up to this game, and it's turned it upside down, turned it on its head. Because Gears 5 is the pinnacle of Gears gameplay. Gore everywhere, you're fighting the Locust, there's new enemy types, there's new bosses, there's new stuff to explore and expand. The campaign mode has been really, really enjoyable to go through in co-op. There are parts of the campaign where it feels like it slows down a little bit too much, like when you're walking through places. I know they've had these missions before, but these things have really drawn out. Other than that, I've been really enjoying the campaign mode. I've been really enjoying the Horde mode and the PvP modes. They seem to be blending and meshing so well. Horde mode has been interesting. I still don't like the idea of having that box that you have to buy everything from. You can't just like pick it from while you're in the standby mode. And also the transitions from wave to wave are really annoying. It like slows down time, blurs your vision, and you see the scoreboard, but I would rather like pause the gameplay or just let you see the scoreboard while you're running around collecting the energy, because once the next round starts, all the energy, all the weapons, etc., disappear off the field. And there's a lot of things that take longer than 30 seconds to do, like collecting energy from the energy machines and just trying to get your defenses up. You move so slowly while you're trying to move like a barricade or a turret around. It's been causing a lot of grief, and we just haven't been putting them up in general. It hasn't been worth it to put up barricades and stuff like that. The most annoying enemy in the game, the leeches, they just feel like they come out of nowhere and they attack you, and it's just like they do too much damage. And I really would have liked to see tickers come back. Tickers were one of my favorite enemies to play as in Gears 3 and the fight. They were really funny. I can't believe they took those out. They replaced them with these guys who like throw grenades and stick them to their heads and they run at you. And also the robots who are infected by the swarm, they will explode if they get too close to you or if they're on the edge of being killed. And it's okay. I mean, I can live without the tickers. I just remember Xbox Live back when the Xbox 360 was around. I had this little ticker guy who would be your, I think it was like a pet or something like that. And he would run around you, and your avatar would get freaked out. And it's just, I just loved that enemy type so much because they were just funny. They were interesting. They just ran out and blew up. That's all they really did. And it was just a fun little gimmick in the game that kind of kept you on your toes. Games nowadays try and do this type of thing where the enemy has a bomb on them and it just runs at you. And nowadays it seems to be less and less success. Like it's more annoying, I should say. Wolfenstein, these dogs run at you and then they blow up and they come out of nowhere, and sometimes they don't even do their bark to signify that they've spawned or started running at you. It's really, really annoying. So annoying to the fact that we've stopped playing the game entirely. It's just I wish for those days when the games just worked. Gears of War 2, they announced the tickers with them running out and they just doing those noises, and they run at you and they run at you and boom, they blow up, or you can shoot them in time and they blow up, or you kick them into an enemy crowd and it blows them up. Just stuff like that is just, I don't think it's going to come back, and that's just where we're going to be at. I just took a 5-minute tangent about an enemy type that is a one-shot kill. This is how invested in Gears of War I am. Other characters that are non-existent in these future games, Dizzy from Gears 2, who came back in Gears 3, non-existent in 4 or 5, which is kind of interesting to me. He was the guy who just kind of drove stuff for you. He wasn't really a big player in the game, but he was still a fun character. He was a cowboy. The new characters in the game, like JD, Kate, Foz, or whatever his name is, characters like that, they're fine. They've been doing a good job of keeping the story going. Of course, Marcus is there now, so for the whole thing, so he's kind of been, a relic of the past, I guess you would say, keeping me invested in the characters. Because, even though the story's good, I'm not really invested in like Kate and JD and stuff like that. Even though it's been interesting to see the story move along. They're of course older now. Things are happening. There's been a few twists that have been pretty interesting. And we've also seen a good amount of characters who we haven't seen, like Clayton Carbine came back and Uncle came back. Two characters who I didn't think were going to come back are back, and I was really happy to see Clayton Carmine back because he was my favorite of the Carmines, even though Benjamin and Anthony were fine. Clayton was of course the badass of the brothers, and he does a really good job of just beating up Locust, and it's always cool to see him and his tattoos. And one of the coolest things in this game, and it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but there's a village you go to, and it's in the skeleton of the giant worm that Marcus and Dom killed in Gears of War 2. And in that village you can find an old helmet that was worn by Benjamin Carmine. And that was just such a cool Easter egg. And I was like, oh, they're really tugging at my heartstrings here, because Gears of War 2 is still one of my favorite games of all time. It's a very good game. The worm level is just so memorable. You can't beat it. You really can't beat it. But anyways, moving on to Gears 5. Been enjoying the game a lot. The PvP it's the same Gears of War PvP that you've had coming around. If you have an upgraded boosted shotgun, it'll kill you in one hit, pretty much. They've made it a little bit. I think they've mapped out the maps a little bit better. Oh, that's a dumb sentence. But they've really done justice with the maps, making it a little bit harder to just kind of like sneak up on someone with a shotgun and just pump them one hit kill. But the online connectivity and stuff like that seems to be okay. I haven't really had too many problems with that. The horde mode, like I said, I don't like that main box you have to protect and get all your stuff from, but Horde mode is still a good time. And we're also meeting enemies that we haven't met yet in the campaign. We're not all the way through the campaign yet, so it's been interesting to try and figure out how those characters work, how those enemies work, and what to do to get around them. I also like how each character kind of has its own loadout that they start off with and their own skills that they can use. Each one has their own special thing, like JD has an artillery strike he can bring down, while someone like Foz has, you can shoot enemies through walls when he's using his special ability. Just cool things like that that really make the game stand out a little bit more. And also the Terminator DLC is pretty swiggity sweet. I thought that the Terminator was going to be a biggie ball stain, but he ended up being like a really cool character to kind of see on the battlefield on the Locust side. And then you have, of course, Sarah Connor on your side helping you out, and it's the old lady version of her, and it's pretty badass to see her rolling around and jumping around with gnashers and stuff in her hands, killing enemies. It's pretty cool. So I'm glad that we did get the pre-order bonuses. Baptista, I think he's being put in the game the day that I'm recording this, on the 14th of September, so that'd be cool to see what he does and, kind of see how he works. He played Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, if you didn't know, and I'm hoping that he kind of keeps that kind of Drax power in his voice while he's doing his voice lines for Gears 5. So I'm excited to keep playing this game. This isn't going to be like a one-and-out type game. This is a game that we're invested in, and we've been enjoying it very, very much. And right now, I would give it high marks. I'm not gonna really. I don't know if I would give it a score right now because I'm not through the campaign all the way yet. But right now, it's like a 4 out of 5. I'm really enjoying it, and we'll see where it goes in the near future. And that leads me to GreedFall, which is a game that came out Tuesday this week. People got it early, of course. Every game comes out early for people. But I picked it up Tuesday, threw it in, and then played it during the podcast premiere on Wednesday. I still was in the chat. Don't boo at me. I was still in the chat, and I was still interacting with chat, but I was playing GreedFall. Now, the one thing that I love about GreedFall is it really has this old school BioWare type feel to it, where the story and everything like that is mapped out in such a way that it's kind of, you can kind of do certain things your way. There's different voice lines you can do to help sway the conversation, and there's a lot of stuff that really makes it memorable for me right now. You're kind of tugging at my old Jade Empire and Mass Effect 1 and 2 heartstrings with how much has gone into this game. There's so much customization with your character and stuff like that. It's going to be one of those games that you'll have to sink a lot of hours into to get to the end of it and have a successful journey. Right now I'm just kind of playing through it leisurely, doing what I need to do. There's been a lot of times where I think the dialogue is unnecessarily drawn out, and I've kind of been skipping a few things here or there. I get the gist of it, and then I go, okay, I can skip these next few lines because they're just talking about the same thing, pretty much repeating themselves, which has kind of drawn out the experience a little bit more than I would want. But the combat in the game is really nice. The factions in the game are really cool to work around with. Right now, I'm just about to get onto the ship to go to the new island and the new kingdom you're supposed to be building up. So I haven't left the port yet, but I am planning on doing that later this weekend or next week, just to kind of get started on that part of the thing. But with a game like this, I like to take my time with, just like with any other BioWare type game. I take my time with it. And I like to kind of get through everything and try and find all the secrets and stuff like that, and the best possible ways to get levels finished. Now, that didn't really come into play with one of the first missions I did, where I had to break into a warehouse. I ended up just killing everyone inside the warehouse and losing reputation with that clan. But yeah, it all worked out in the end. One thing I would recommend to do, I chose, I believe, level 1 crafting and upgrading for weapons right out of the gate. I really wish I would have done the charisma thing or the lock picking. There's a lot of locks that need to be picked on chests and stuff like that, which I won't be able to get to until after I level up some more. There's like 3 tiers of leveling up your character. One's like your basics, like health and stamina and stuff like that. Other ones are like special abilities and special things that help you with the game. And then the third thing is like your major abilities, like lockpicking and stuff like that. And then there's branches off of those things as well. So it's a pretty interesting way of doing things, and I've really been enjoying the game. The only thing that's really been bugging me about it is the mouth movements on the characters are just so out of sync. They're really bad, like Mass Effect Andromeda type bad. But the game looks good overall, and it plays very nicely overall, so I can overlook that because that's not like a huge important thing to me. You can tell that they really did try to, have the facial movements look natural, but it just didn't work. And I think the rest of the game kind of speaks, the rest of the game just rises above that, and it doesn't really drag it down that much. I feel like it's less than like half a point to me, to be honest with you. Other than that, like I said, combat is really nice in this game. There's like different, not stances and stuff like that, but there's different fight styles and different weapons that do different damage to like armor and health and stuff like that. There's firearms in the game, which are really fun to mess up enemies when they're trying to do like a combo or something like that. I've been having a little bit of trouble like with the lock-on mechanic in this game. I don't know if it's just me being dumb, but it's been a little bit more difficult to kind of lock onto an enemy, keep on fighting that enemy, especially when there's more enemies around you. The parrying and counterattacking is pretty cool, but when I counterattack, it seems like the enemy character just right away starts swinging his sword before I can like get the next hit in. After I counter and press square to swipe. Is it square? I'm not sure if it's square, but whatever your normal hit is, I try to do one of those, and then, all of a sudden the other enemy's already hitting me, and I'm like, what the fuck, But yeah, been having a good time with GreedFall so far, so I'm excited to get even farther into the game and explore this new world, which is kind of like, it's kind of like a colonial type game, but it has like, the natives who kind of can do like black magic or something like that, and I guess it was in the trailers that you could like choose a side. You can choose a side of the colonial type characters or the native characters, and that would dictate how the game goes continuing on. So we'll see. So far, I haven't found any characters that I don't like, and I've done a lot of things that I regret, but, it's just how it goes when you're playing through the game the first time. Like, there was this really cool mission where, in order to get the Bridge Clan, I think they're called, to allow these historians into the country, you had to like take down this black market elixir salesman, and he was trying to put out like medicine to help people with their ailments, and he was really trying to find a cure for like this dark plague type thing that's going on. In the end, I decided to arrest him because I was like, this will help with a better outcome for the other storyline. But it's cool how these things are just intersecting. What the heck happened to my voice there? How these things are intersecting. Other than that, not much else to say about GreedFall. It's a good RPG type game. It has some not really Souls-like elements, but it has like that third-person style where you can lock on and attack and stuff like that. So it does have like a Souls-like element, but it's not like a permadeath type thing. And yeah, I've just been really enjoying it, and I feel like it's a really good game. So I can't say anything negative about it right now, other than what I've already said. Also, I ended up playing BattleWake, which is a PSVR game that I was kind of interested in. I talked about it in a podcast episode a few episodes ago. I'm not sure exactly when I talked about it, but it's a pretty interesting game. It's one of those games where you of course you sail a ship, and it's VR and it's very basic, but it does a good job of what it's trying to do. You're a pirate captain who has special abilities, and you're sailing this pirate ship, and you're shooting cannons, and there's like miniguns on the front of it that are like puckle guns, and they can fire at enemies too. There's no like mortars or anything like that, but there are special moves by each character, and also the overall ultimate ability for each character. Like the first guy you play as, Diego, he has like this ability that summons a typhoon and can lift ships out and throw them around. I think another lady can summon a kraken, and it'll come up and destroy whatever ships are around. So it's cool stuff like that that really makes me enjoy the game. The levels are very basic. It's just, go through the level, destroy all the ships, get to this point in the level, and then the level ends. There was one level where it was literally just destroy one ship, the big bad ship, and move on. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is really worth the money that I paid for. I think it's like $20 or something like that. So if you're interested in BattleWake, I would suggest waiting for a sale to come around for this one. It doesn't seem like that big of an experience and that great of a campaign, but I haven't played the multiplayer yet, so it might be worth it for that. But the story mode so far has been a little bit lackluster. I'm planning on playing it more, of course, and I'm really hoping to get back into the VR stuff because I really enjoy VR, and even though I get a little motion sickness on extended play times, I mean, I didn't really feel it on BattleWake, and I really only started to feel it when I was playing, like, there's this thing called Rec Room on the PlayStation 4, and me and my friends were playing some stuff on there, and that had been like 2 hours. I've already been playing BattleWake for about an hour, and then I was playing that for like 30 minutes more, and I was like, I'm starting to feel a little bit nauseous because it is a long time to be in the VR world. I mean, an hour and a half is pretty long for me, and I hadn't played the VR since 3-4 months ago now, so I had to kind of work back up my tolerance for that type of thing. But still, enjoyable game. Would recommend on a sale. If you like pirates and like Black Flag and stuff like that, it'll definitely be one of those games that you want to look into. The Typhoon stuff, it's really cool, and the Kraken does a lot of damage. It's really, really awesome to watch it in action. It kind of has like a Sea of Thieves type feel to it, but of course it's VR and there's a little bit less you can do with it. But yeah, pretty cool indeed. And that brings me to the last melon of today, which is, drumroll please, Borderlands 3. It's finally here. I put out my opening of the Diamond Loot Chest Edition out on YouTube. It was very professional, quotations of course. Randy the dog loved the opening. He was in like 90% of the video. It was a lot of fun to open. Like, this is the first special edition that I've gotten that's been like this huge a thing. It has die-cast characters. It has really cool keychains. It has some like a felt map of the universe, and there's like portraits of the characters that look really, really good. And there's this model ship that I put the engines on backwards, and I don't feel like redoing it because I've already completed it. And I'm like, fuck it, it doesn't matter. The engines are backwards, whatever. It's a really cool collector's edition that all came in this big chest that is like the ones that are in the game. And it's just so freaking cool. So I'm glad that I did that. And I'm also glad that I waited to start the game until I could play for an extended amount of time. So Friday after I got home from work, it was just Borderlands 3 for about 3 hours straight, and I was loving every second of it. They've improved this game so much. They've improved the series so much since pre-sequel. Like, everything just feels unique and new, but it still is a Borderlands experience, and it still feels like Borderlands. Instead of your character having only one ultimate ability, you can choose between 3 different ones, and then there's a whole bunch of like secondary and third and fourth ones that you can put on eventually, and it's just it's so awesome. I'm playing as Flak the Beastmaster right now, which I think is a popular one to do. I was trying to pick and choose. I really like all 4 of the characters and what they do, but I wanted to choose Flak first because he was the one that I was most interested in. I think the next one I'm going to go through as the gunner, Mose, I think is her name. I'm thinking of going through with her next, and then the Siren, and then of course the illusionist at the end there. But all 4 characters are very strong characters. They all have great abilities, and I really enjoyed just looking into them and trying to figure out what would be the best for my first playthrough. And I think the Beastmaster is one of those ones that he's so unique in the way that he has a beast follow him 24/7, and he has 3 different beasts you can choose from. There's a spider ant, there's a skag, and there's a rack. And I've been using the skag because a skag can like cough up ammo and weapons for you, and also the ability that goes along with him in the blue tier is so good. It transports, it does like a giant fireball, and it does damage to enemies, and then your beast comes out in like Super Saiyan mode, and he Kamehamehas those bitches. Like, it's pretty sweet. I mean, he doesn't literally shoot a laser beam, he just comes out like glowing gold, and he starts fighting again. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You understand what I'm saying.
Rada, bitch.
So when you get around to it, Borderlands 3 is still a Borderlands experience. It's still Borderlands at its core, but it feels so new and refreshed. The gameplay, the guns, everything feels so new. The sounds that the guns make, so good. The new vehicles in the game, so good. The graphics in the game, bellissimo. The character interactions, the supporting characters, the main characters, bellissimo. Your character talks throughout this game, just like in pre-sequel. your character talks during the game, and it adds so much to it, rather than having, the Gunzerker say a line here or there, or in the first game your character didn't talk at all. Pre-sequel started that with those characters being able to kind of talk back and forth with them. And I think this game does a better job of having, the voice lines make a little bit more sense, and not having to re-record like the main character's dialogue in order to get your dialogue to sound right. Everyone's back in this game so far. I played up until, I left Pandora, and now I'm on Promethea, which is the second planet you go to. And I've been kind of doing things on that planet. I've been trying to do all the side missions I can find along the way, and it's just been such a great experience. I haven't really felt the time. Really, the only time that I felt like I could feel the time going on was this point where the character that I was following almost kind of glitched out. She was walking along, and then she just stood there and started saying her voice lines rapidly over and over and over again. I was like, okay, I'll go and do this side mission and come back and see where you're at. And she was all done with her path, and she was fine after that. There are those moments where you are following a character, like there's an early mission where you follow Vaughn, and all of a sudden he gets like a giant speed boost, and he goes Naruto run over to this area, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you'll just stand there for a few seconds, say his voice line, then move on. Stuff like that that's been kind of like iffy. But overall, the game has been really, really well done. I haven't found any glitches or anything wrong with the game so far, except for those few things with the non-playable characters. There are a lot of comic relief characters in this game, so if you don't like comedy, you might want to just leave this one on the shelf. Every character you meet has some sort of one-off line or something goofy going on, and it can get a little taxing, especially when they're all in the same room talking to each other, but for the most part, it's Borderlands at its core, and it's fine with me. A lot of the things that are said are funny to me. There's not really been many jokes that haven't landed. There's the one girl who talks a lot about coffee that I don't really, like the jokes. They're not for me, but people who are like coffee fanatics will enjoy her sense of humor and her side missions. Claptrap has one of the best intros since Borderlands 1. Like, he comes out of the gate hunting, he gets your attention, he gives you your stuff, and he's like, okay, new recruit, we're gonna go attack this stronghold, and he's like, it's time to go sneaky time. He goes into stealth mode, and he's doing like the thing that Krunk did during the new Emperor's New Groove, where he's voicing everything he's doing, and he's slapping around on the ground. He's pretty much a metal box, so it's like clunk clunk clunk, and he's trying to sneak around, and you hear him sneak. It made me really giggle and laugh a lot, and it was such a great opening sequence, going into that base and fighting your first boss, and it was so great. The boss battles in this game, top notch. Mouthpiece was an excellent boss, and the next boss after that was really cool too. I don't want to give anything away because they didn't show the next boss after that in the trailers. They just showed Mouthpiece off during his during like a Twitch stream or something like that. I don't want to give that away. The Calypso twins. I was concerned about the Calypso twins going into it. I didn't think that they were going to be these really standout villains, but so far, they really are two very interesting villains. I don't want to give anything away because it's a brand spanking new game, but let me tell you this, their story is definitely more in depth than they let known on the trailers. You just think, oh, they're the leaders of this cult and blah, 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 they get worshipped, blah, blah. There's so much more to their character, and it's really showing now that I'm through the game as far as I am. All the main characters are pretty much back. Lilith, Ellie, Moxie's back, of course, Marcus, and all these characters, they're all really great characters. They've grown as characters. Of course, Ellie, during the time in the last DLC for Borderlands 2, was handed over the reins to the Catcher Ride, and she's made it like the best freaking business out in the world. She's also the one who built the spaceship for the team to get away from Pandora. It's just been really awesome to see these characters back, and they're also embracing characters from Tales from the Borderlands. These characters who you thought were just going to disappear, yeah, they're back, and they have big parts in this game. If you haven't played Tales from the Borderlands right now, stop what you're doing, go play that game, listen to the podcast first, but after that, go play through Tales from the Borderlands just so you kind of get up to speed with these characters and their pasts, because they don't give you much exposition, they just throw you into it. And if you haven't played the Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary DLC from Borderlands 2, you're definitely gonna want to play that, because you'll be a little bit lost going into that as well. Borderlands 3 takes place a few years after the DLC for the Commander Lilith thing. And of course, they've grown as characters, or grown apart as characters, and they're all coming back together for the Crimson Raiders. And it's been a really cool experience, and I've really been enjoying what I've seen and what I've played so far. I mean, I'm probably about 5-6 hours in, and it's just been a really cool, awesome experience. The different modes you can play while playing multiplayer, there's 2 different ones, and I chose the one that was classic, called Classic, which is you all share loot, and you have to kind of pick and choose, or just take everything for yourself. And there's also the new mode where everyone gets their own loot, everyone plays on their own difficulty, which is an interesting mode, makes it a little bit easier for people to play, and easier for people who are just like quick searching for a match to play as well. Also the new, like, this is one of the coolest things to me. Okay, I know this might be a small thing for a lot of people, but imagine that this is my little PDA, not PDA, but my little Echo device. You get to choose your Echo device, you can customize your Echo device, and when you open up the main menu, your character actually opens up the main menu and clicks buttons on it. And then now when you pick up voice recordings, you plug them into your Echo device and listen to them on your Echo device. The Echo device has been completely redesigned, and it's awesome. It's freaking sweet. It actually makes it, like, interesting. You're not just picking up Echo devices everywhere you go. You're actually using your Echo device. This is your Echo device. It's awesome. You see your character using it, and you can customize it. It's awesome. And the customization of the characters also, really good. Flack so far has some really, really crazy, awesome skins, and I really can't wait to unlock more as I go along. The missions have been stellar, have been amazing. I have not found one mission where I've been bored to tears while playing. Like Borderlands 2, there's a few of those levels where you go around collecting 50 parts, or, 100 zombie brains. Like, those things just bore you. This game, it's been boom, 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 pow, pow, pow with all these things. My heart was like, boom, bop, ba, ba, da, ba, ha, the beat goes on and on and on and on, and boom! Nope, we're not doing that. It's been a great experience, and the side missions have been fun, and they've really been embracing this whole, like, there's a ship that you go to as your home base now, because characters aren't just on the planet or walking around usually. After you leave Pandora, missions come from Claptrap, from Lilith, from Ellie, and they're wanted posters on the boards where you pick up your side missions. And that's such a great idea. Rather than having them all go down to the planet and them all be standing around giving you missions, or in the ship themselves, they've done this where it's more believable now that, they're giving you the missions from the ship and you can kind of do them as you please. Really cool stuff. How many more things can I say about Borderlands 3 right now? I mean, the guns have been incredible. I've been finding it hard to find one gun type that I want to use for everything. Right now I have an assault rifle, a sniper rifle, and a pistol equipped, but I've been changing them around so much. I love every single gun that I pick up, and I want to use it forever, but another one comes along and you go, whoa, this one has a tracker. You can shoot out a tracker from it, and then the bullets will hone in on whoever the grenade latches onto. That's pretty freaking sweet. I found, this pistol that when you are done with it, you throw it away, and it will bounce 3 times and explode into a bunch of, shrapnel, and it will kill everything around you, which has been pretty great. There's been another pistol that I found that you can switch the fire mode to pull out like a taser or something like that, and you can shoot it at the enemy, and it does a massive amount of damage. That was pretty sweet. The assault rifles have been pretty incredible. The new fire modes on these things are just awesome. Like, you can switch from triple shot to full auto. Some guns have like a special thing, like a grenade launcher or something like that attached to them. A lot of the sniper rifles seem to be about the same, where, it's just a sniper rifle, but all these other guns have like different fire modes, and sometimes you can switch from electric to corrosive, and then vice versa. Cool stuff like that. The sniper rifles have been really interesting to use. This is the first time I've actually been using a sniper rifle since playing as Mordecai in Borderlands 1, but it's still pretty cool indeed. And it's just, there's so much loot and guns and stuff like that. Sometimes you don't get enough iridium, but I feel like that is kind of outweighed by how much money you get in the game, which is fine. The iridium in the game comes off of mostly big bosses and stuff like that. You collect it by doing those kind of things, and you still trade them into Earl behind his door, and he has his own special vending machine that sells the best guns that you can find. Really cool stuff like that. The maps and stuff like that are really nice too. They're big, they're expansive, but they're limited on each planet. So the Pandora right now only has 4 areas you can go to, but those areas are big. Like, take 5 areas from Borderlands 2 and combine them, and you got the second place you go to in Borderlands 3. It's amazing, which causes the load times to be a little bit long. Even when booting out the game, the load times a little bit longer than I would expect it to be, but it's nowhere near as bad as like Fallout or Skyrim or something like that when they first booted up, because those are way too long. These load times are fine. I don't mind them. The fast travel stuff works a lot better in this game. If you have a vehicle on the field, you can fast travel to it at any time. Same thing with the fast travel points on the map. So if you have a side mission available at this one place and there's a fast travel thing right there, just go to that and that'd be good. But I do enjoy exploring the wasteland and stuff like that. There's a lot of like things that are set up in there, like, you know, buildings and stuff like that you can go into and find loot in. There's a lot of loot crates in the game. There's a lot of opening loot and stuff in the game too, and it all it gives you so many different options. It's hard to like pick and choose, like I said earlier, what guns you want to use, what you want to do with it. It's very awesome. It's very, very awesome. I have hardly anything bad to say about Borderlands 3. It's just been one of those experiences that have just been like, just been so amazing from the get-go. I mean, I have not found one thing that I don't like about the game. Like, there's not been anything that I've pointed at and been like, oh yeah, that's not good, that's bad. Like, there's been so many good things happening in this game. Also, the inclusivity, what would you say, inclusivity? I don't know how to say it, but they've been including everyone in this game, for the enemy types, I should say. Like, you have, like, instead of, like, just having, you know, some basic enemy types and you add a few here and there, like, there's so many different variants of enemies and how they look in this game, especially with the bandits, that it's so nice to see that. Like, every character, like, every enemy you go against, I mean, sure, there's a lot of similar ones still, but there's, you know, there's just so many different variants of these characters, and they're really fun to fight against. And I really like that kind of thing. They really put a lot of thought into how they want this game to be and how they want to present this game, and it all works out very, 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 very well. So I wouldn't be surprised if this became my game of the year. It's just been such a great experience so far. But of course, we'll see at the end of the year who is crowned game of the year. But Borderlands 3 is quite the contender right now. If you're waiting on Borderlands 3 because of controversies or whatever, that is your choice. But let me tell you this, you are missing out on the best Borderlands experience since Borderlands 2. Borderlands pre-sequel is fine. You know, I don't mind it. Borderlands 1 was a little bit shaky, but it was still a solid game. But this is definitely the best experience you'll get from a Borderlands game in a long time. And it's really something that is to be commended. It is really just a great, great experience. So yeah, I guess I don't really have anything else to say about it right now. I'm still working through it, of course, like I said. There's a few characters who I haven't met yet, like, you know, I haven't seen Janie Springs or Athena or anyone like that yet, so I'm wondering if they didn't put them in the game or if they're going to show up later in the game. Who knows? I guess that's a wait and see type thing, but so far, really, really enjoying Borderlands 3. It definitely deserves lots of praise. I really can't think of anything that would be bringing it down right now, and to be honest with you, that kind of ended short. I don't know why, but I really can't. You know, I can't say really anything negative about it that's so negative that it would make people not want to buy the game. You know, it's been such a great and fluid experience. I can't wait to play as more characters. I can't wait to continue my story with Flack. I can't wait to play with friends. It's going to be quite the experience, and it's definitely going to be one of those games that will go down in history as this great, great game. The Borderlands series is great. The Borderlands trilogy is awesome. Package in pre-sequel and Tales from the Borderlands with that, and you got a pristine package that hardly any other series can say, yep, we've had these many good games in a series. Like, Mass Effect fell short with 3 in Andromeda. Call of Duty has been really shaky these past few games. Battlefield has had some low times in it. Hardline. There's a lot of games that have duds in the series, but Borderlands doesn't seem to have a dud. It has weaker games, sure, but not a dud. Like, and that's one of my favorite things about the series is it's strong. It keeps going strong. The creators love the game, and they love developing the game, and we've waited a long time for Borderlands 3, and it's been really worth the wait, I will tell you that. So, if you haven't yet, pick up Borderlands 3, see how you like it. If you've already played Borderlands, you've been playing Borderlands, let me know what you think. Borderlands 3, I mean, if it wasn't for Borderlands 3, I wouldn't have reconnected with an old friend from my old school, like in elementary school. Like, that was crazy. He was there at GameStop waiting in line, and I was like, holy shit. We didn't even notice each other at first. We were already having a conversation, and then all of a sudden I was like, hey, I remember you. And he was like, yeah, I was going to say something, but I didn't know for sure. And I was like, well, it's for sure. That was really awesome. And there's a lot of cool people in that line who immediately just started talking with each other. And it just showed how much camaraderie that Borderlands can bring. And I'm hoping that everyone's having a good experience with the game as much as I am. And like I said, I've been enjoying it so much that I have no problem saying that it's one of the best games I've played so far this year so far. I'll play through the rest of the campaign before giving a final verdict, just like with Gears and GreedFall and stuff like that. But so far, give me all that. It's so good. So good. So good. And that's it. That's all the new games I've been playing. I'm still dragging my feet through Assassin's Creed, which is going to go on the major back burner. And I'll be playing all these other games constantly these next few weeks, so I'll give updates when I can. Next Wednesday, of course, we're going to go back to the news. I'm trying to do a collaboration with a guy who does Madden videos. His name's Ryan Moody, and he has some numbers after his name. Go onto his channel, watch some of his Madden videos, and comment, hey, you should do this podcast. You should really go on this guy's podcast. I think that would be kind of cool. I've sent him an email, of course, so I don't want to bug him too much, but I would really enjoy talking to him about Madden because he's brought up so many good points. He's shown so much good footage of just the game being shit. And it would be really fun to talk to him. So if you want to, you can go onto his channel, say, hey, this guy on this podcast would really like to talk to you. He sent you an email, Yemmy the Ferret, he's a cool dude, Anyways, thank you so much for coming around to this episode of YemmyCast, a video game podcast. No matter where you're listening to this podcast, I appreciate you so much. If you're on the shitter, if you're taking a shit in your car, if you're taking a shit in your car while having road rage, if you're taking a shit in your car while having road rage and driving to McDonald's, if you're taking a shit in your car while having road rage, going to McDonald's and opening up Pokemon cards, I appreciate you so much. If it's that specific, you've won the day. Just contact me for your free merchandise. Anyways, thank you so much for coming around to this episode. Premieres at 9:30 a.m. On Sunday, but it's the same, it's uploaded the same day on all the other platforms as well. The other episode on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. It's premieres, and it's available on all the platforms the same day as well. All right. I think that's all of my shilling. Like I said, last episode, new streaming schedule. We're only going to be doing on Saturdays, and we'll go from there. I'm hoping to kind of put out some different and more content rather than streaming now, because the streaming has been a little bit less in the views. So I've decided, instead of having an hour and a half consumed by streaming, we'll use that hour and a half to maybe work on edited videos or do some highlights of live streams from the past or something like that, just to kind of reinvigorate myself, not bog myself down. Like I said, it's helping me a lot with the new games coming out, and I'll keep this new schedule going until I think otherwise. But right now, I think we're in a good spot. So if you want to, you can check me out on Saturdays on YouTube. I'll do live streams on YouTube still, and those usually start around 9:30, the same time as Sunday podcast. So anyways, thank you so much, yes, you specifically, for coming around to this episode of YemmyCast, a video game podcast. I am your host, Yemmy the Ferret, and thanks for listening. Ciao, baby.